Dear friends, yesterday we heard how the fading, the zooming out of the sacrifice, because the sacrifice is a kind of fading, gives way to a more beautiful image. Like in a film, when at a certain point of the story, the framing of a scene changes to a fade out, and then the same scene returns but clearer. While the fading is in progress, you gasp for breath, but when the process is over, you have another frame in which the previous frame has become more beautiful. This night, we are presented with a bigger frame in which the previous frame has become more beautiful. Christ is not just a great companion for life. I have run into someone really special with whom my life has unexpectedly changed. A companion who subsequently was cancelled, destroyed, eradicated, killed by the usually prevalent powers of history: indifference, the will to power, presumption, violence. This night we encounter the risen Christ and realize he is the center and the significance of all history, of time and space. The one who created the universe and each of us in it willed that in time and space there should have been a man, a human being, part of our human nature, in and through whom the full meaning of reality, God's own nature, would become object of our human experience. Pedagogical and friendly human factor of our lives within history. Truly, this was the Son of God. Even the Roman centurion had to admit, when standing under the cross, he saw how Jesus lived his own human death. What the more attentive, the more human, like John and Magdalene and Mary, and even the centurion, could perceive, even when Jesus was dying, this was made clear to all a few days later with his resurrection. The cross opposes the life as we dream it to be, but the cross is not opposed to life as it is, said François Mauriac. In life as it is, the cross, the sacrifice, is not an objection, but it is the condition through which the whole picture becomes more clear. The condition for a truer possession. Now Christ, this exceptional human companion, possesses everything in its roots. What is then the meaning of history? As before, finding fulfillment. But meaning and fulfillment have come towards us. According to these initiatives that we have heard in all of the 9 readings that have filled the liturgy of this night, the fullness and the meaning have taken an initiative of thousands of years, step by step, towards us, culminating in the event of this night and reaching us here and now. Therefore, if this has met us and we have met it, and we have permitted ourselves and permit ourselves to be grasped by its presence, its risen presence among us, the meaning of history becomes re-encountering Christ and permit others to encounter him. How do we permit others to encounter him? By permitting ourselves to be grasped again by him. Because it's when we are grasped that we change, that we become ourselves, and we become illuminating presences, attractive presences. For the disciples, after they had seen him alive, their hope was to see the Christ event happen again in human encounters. This is the hope of the Christian, the desire with which the Christian enters his days. I want to see you again. Tell my brothers that he goes before you and they will see him in Galilee. in their circumstances, in their lives. Christ is risen in the body. With his resurrection, he is contemporaneous and present. Salvation has begun and can be experienced. All these things that historically have happened, from the creation to the presence of Christ among us, to the presence of the risen Christ among us, can be experienced by us. The faith proclaims the salvation of the present. The present life as life is the development of the seed of the risen Christ. Who has the risen Christ has everything. But what this everything is, we don't know yet. This is the adventure in which the Christians on this earth within history are engaged. To find him back, to know him better in new experiences, in new circumstances, in every aspect of life, even the most difficult and dark. We are invited with Christ, with him going before us, among us and before us in our circumstances, to experience all of these steps that were described by all of the readings that have happened to the Jewish people, and then what St. Paul says to the Christians. We are called to experience, to perceive reality as it is created in this moment for us. To be surprised by the being created of the reality. We are called, we are invited to perceive that the sacrifice, as the one that Abraham was called to do, that the detachment from the things that are most dear to us, that it's only apparent, that it's only a fading out, that it's only a test, a verification, and making something more true for a greater possession. We are called, like the Jewish people who left Egypt, to experience a real liberation in this life. That we become free, that we can breathe. We are called, as the prophet said, as the prophet Isaiah said, to experience the love of God, his care, his help, his providence, is helping us in the different circumstances, as a loving father does, taking away our difficulties, or making them softer, giving help in them. We are invited, we are called, as the prophet Isaiah says, to realize the gratuitousness of things. Come to the water who wants to drink. I give it for free. If you don't have money, if you don't have anything to give back, don't worry. This is for you. Reality is for you, to perceive the gratuitousness of reality and of the redemption whenever we want. Which people has the God so close by and so caring as we have? We are experienced. We are invited. We are called to experience, as the prophet Baruch said, to walk in this life toward the splendor of the Lord, that the best things need just to come, from glory to glory, from light to light. In the beginning, the light can be very small, and slower in time, it becomes more clear. Like the light of the candle in the night. It begins as one flame and it becomes stronger. That time is our friend instead of our enemy, as it's for everybody. We are invited to experience this already in this life with the risen Christ. We are called to experience. We are invited to experience that our heart of stone, our insensibility is changed by the presence of the risen Christ into a heart of flesh. It can be touched by the things that should touch us. They can be touched by reality, that can be touched by our brother and sister who suffer. Can therefore be moved to change. We are finally invited with Christ, as we have been baptized in his death, also to perceive in the end That our death, which will happen inevitably, is not the end. It's a passage, it's a new beginning, is the truth, will be the truth of reality. But we can be sure of this, because life begins to be life in this reality, here. That we start to live as opposed to surviving already here, in His presence with Him. We are invited that all these things become experienced in this life. That is the greatness of Christianity. It's not something from in an indefinite future. It is something that is among us, and that we are called, that it has happened. It has already happened, and we are invited to be part of it, to experience it, and to, through our experience, which changes us, propose it also to the others. For the world to be saved, to be reconciled, to be brought to its truth, the mystery of Christ in its temporal presence has to enter actively in the world in all its aspects. Because the resurrection of Christ implies the salvation of all the factors of what is human. To be the protagonist, together with Him, of this salvation, here and now, together. That is the remaining Easter joy of the Christian.